134, changes of matter.
But I want to start with an experiment.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so we're going to start with an experiment, and there's two things that I want you to go get. Okay, listen up. The first thing I want you to get, and you'll have to tell Mom and Dad that Miss Stuber told you to do this, we're doing a science experiment. I want you to get an ice cube from the freezer and a paper towel. Okay? Everybody go get an ice cube from the freezer and a paper towel and come right back to Google Meeting. Go. Go, ice cube and a paper towel. Evie, go get it.
Unless you're in
Chris,
daycare.
go get it.
Yeah, if you're at daycare, don't
If you're
worry
at
about it.
daycare, don't worry about it.
Oh, if you're at daycare, don't worry about it. But if you're at
You can
home,
use a
go get
tissue,
an
grab a
ice
tissue.
cube
We'll give you
and a
advice.
paper towel.
Grab a tissue, guys.
So I said get your book out.
All right, you're getting an ice cube and a paper towel. I don't know if you can hear Miss Stuber.
Now, get your book out.
Go get an
Not
ice cube
with
and a
this
paper towel.
Grab a tissue.
Good, Ryan. Ice cube and paper towel. Aaliyah, it's okay if you don't have one.
Remember, we don't sit
You're
at this table,
you're
though.
out.
Hey, girls, bye. You don't sit
Oh
at
my
this table.
gosh, I did it again. I muted myself. Get an ice cube and a paper
If you don't
towel.
have it, it's okay.
Go to
You
your
can
spot.
still-
Get your
it's
book.
okay
Go to your
if you
spot
don't
right
have it. Just walk.
Yeah, if you don't have it, just watch.
It's okay if you don't
Aaliyah,
have
did you
it.
get an ice
Okay,
cube?
friends, y'all got to go.
Sorry.
Go on.
Mine-
Go on.
I was fixing mine.
All right, y'all got to go. Okay, everybody, if you were able to, you got an ice
Hold your
cube
hand out.
and a paper towel, because our experiment is a little bit messy today. Okay?
Okay, don't stand over the table. I don't want it on the table.
All right, so we're waiting on Henley to get back. I don't know where Abigail is.
Put it in your hand, tissue in the
Okay.
other hand.
Everybody should have an ice cube. Okay, friends, we've been talking about solids, liquids,
Hand.
and gases. Somebody is not muted. We've been talking about solids, liquids, and gases. Let's look at this ice cube. Raise your hand if you can tell me, is it a solid, is it a liquid, or is it a gas? Raise your hand if you can tell me. Raise your hand. Let's see. Talia, what is this?
Use both hands.
Is it a solid, liquid, or gas?
Gas.
This ice cube is a gas.
No.
This is a gas.
It's liquid and solid.
Give me a thumbs up if you agree that this ice cube is a gas. Give me a thumbs down
Put it
if you
down.
think it's something other than a gas. That was a good try, Talia. Let's see. Dario, I see you have a thumbs down. What do you think this ice cube is? A solid, liquid, or gas? Give me a thumbs up if you agree that it is a solid. Give me a thumbs down if you agree that it's something else.
Pass it back and forth.
Okay, awesome. This ice cube is indeed a solid, right? We talked about the properties of a solid. We said that it holds its shape, right? Does this ice cube hold its shape? It doesn't change shape, okay? It does not easily compress. Put your ice cube in your hand and press it down. Is it going flat?
Put it in your hand.
Put it in your hand and press it down. Apply pressure. Try to compress it. Is it flattening out or is it holding its shape? It's holding its shape, isn't it? Okay. And it doesn't flow. Try to pour it out. Can you pour the ice cube out?
No.
No, not really. Okay. So today's experiment is that we're going to take this solid and we're going to talk about how to make it and change the state of matter to a liquid. How do you think we can do that? Let's give you a minute. I'm going to give you a minute and go ahead and change it to a liquid. Change it to a liquid.
Hold it.
What do you need to do to change it to a liquid?
Experiment. Figure it out.
What do you need to do?
What do you do with it?
How do you change it to a liquid? I see Brooklyn. What are you doing,
Let
Brooklyn?
it. Change it.
She's squishing it. She's squishing it and it's making a liquid. Okay, how are you making it into a liquid? Who wants to tell me online? Jacob, in Miss Turnage's class, how are you making it a liquid? He's good. He's rubbing it together, and he said something important. He said it's melting. It's melting. Okay? This is the experiment. I want to know, why is your ice cube melting? Are you making water? Is it changing? Emma, why is it changing from a solid to a liquid, to water?
Because it's getting hotter.
It's getting hotter. Boys and girls, we can change the states of matter with something called heat. Okay? With heat. What if Miss Stuber had a cup of water? Okay, what if my ice cube melted and it was all water and I wanted to turn it back into a solid? How could I make a cup of water back into an ice cube or a solid?
By freezing it again.
By freezing it. So I would have to add what to it? What happens when you freeze it? It gets very what?
Cold.
It gets cold. Okay? So what I want you to know is that we're changing this ice cube with two things. Okay? We're changing it with heat, or we can change water with cold temperature. Okay, so you can do one of two things with your ice cube. You can pop it in your mouth and eat it real quick, or you can go throw it in the sink. If you made a mess, wipe it with your paper towel. Okay? Go ahead and put your ice cube away. Either eat it or throw it in the sink.
Wait a minute, we can change it one more way.
Okay, wait, Miss Turnage said wait. There is one more way that we can change it. There is one more way that we can change it. Okay?
Don't put it back in your mouth, buddy.
We can change our ice cube. It can go from an ice cube, a solid, to water, which is a liquid, right? Because we added heat. What do you think will happen if we continue to add heat to the water?
It makes steam.
It makes steam. Very good. What is steam? Steam is a type of what?
Gas.
Gas. Steam is a gas. So this one ice cube can change from a solid to a liquid to a gas. If you add one thing, what did we have to add to it?
Heat.
Heat. Okay? Heat.
So water's funny. Water's one of those really miracle things that happens in the world. It's a nature thing. It's a miracle. And solid, it starts as ice possibly. If you add heat to it, it turns to water. But then if you have water and you put something cold, like a cold temperature, cold outside, a freezer, it'll turn back to a what? Solid. And it also, if you have water and you put heat to it, it'll turn to gas. And that's just like the weather also. For instance, if you have rain, the sun comes out and adds heat to it, and it evaporates and turns into a what?
Cloud.
Scream it! What's it turn into? A cloud. Yeah, turns into a cloud. But if the temperature is cold outside, that rain will turn to snow. You said it, sleet or hail, or
Solid.
snow, sleet,
Ice.
hail. This is ice right here. Okay, so if you add coldness to it, it does this. So water is awesome. Everybody say that. Water is awesome. Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to give you about 10 seconds. Do something with your ice cube. Put it back in the sink, eat it, whatever you want to do. I'm going to
If you
take
dropped
10
it, don't
seconds
eat it, okay?
and put mine in the sink.
Put it in your tissue.
Put it
Leave
in
it
your
right there.
tissue.
We'll wash the desk with it. It does that too.
Ate it?
Put it in your tissue. Have a seat, my class. Put it in your tissue. Leave it alone. We have to turn in our book now. So get your book, put it in your
Yours
lap.
melted? Oh my goodness, Brooklyn's melted all the way into her tissue. It turned into water. Very good. That's what our story's about today, boys and girls.
I said you get your book out.
Okay? Our story today is about matter changing forms. Okay? It's going to be about changing forms. Open your book, if you have a second grade book at home, or if you're in Miss Turnage's class, open your book to page 134. Okay, if you've got a book, page 134.
Right here, follow along.
If you do not have the book and you have a digital book, just follow along with Miss Tuber. Okay?
He does, we share and you're coming up, but he's not paying attention.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and start. Matter and changes. Okay? Matter can change from one kind to another. And we saw that with the ice. It started out with a solid, then it changed to a liquid. We could have changed the liquid to a gas. Okay? Some solids can change to liquids. Some liquids can change to gases. Water is a special kind of matter. You know that water is a liquid, but it can easily be found in all three forms on our planet. We know that we can find water frozen in the form of snow, sleet, or hail, right? It's in ice form when it gets cold. We can also find it in a stream, in our oceans, or a pond. What?
Geyser?
In a geyser. A geyser would have it, what kind? What would it be in a geyser?
Hot water.
It wouldn't be hot water. It would be steam. A geyser, it turns into a steam. Yes. Okay. And then we also have steam where it turns into gas. Okay. Think of your mom or dad's cup of tea or cup of coffee. Okay, if you look at that picture down there, cup of tea or cup of coffee, okay, and it's getting really, really hot. What do you see coming off of a cup of tea or a cup of coffee? Steam, okay, steam. That's showing you that that water is actually changing to a gas in the form of steam, okay? Water becomes a solid if it is cooled. It turns into ice. Water turns into ice when it freezes. Water freezes when it reaches a temperature of 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Say 32 degrees Fahrenheit.
32 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay? Or 0 degrees Celsius. Okay, think about that for a minute. Today outside, it's supposed to be 76 degrees Fahrenheit. Do you think 32 degrees Fahrenheit is hotter than today or colder than today? It's a lot colder. It's going to take water and freeze it and turn it into ice. It is a lot colder. Okay, water becomes a gas if it's heated. Think of your mom and dad cooking at home, and there's a picture of it in your book. Think of them putting some water into a pan and putting that pan on your stove and turning it on. If you don't turn it on, nothing happens. But when you turn that burner on and it heats up the pan, which in turn heats up the water, what happens to the water? It starts to what? It starts to boil. It is very, very hot. And when it starts boiling, what do you see coming off the top? Steam. You see bubbles, and that's when the water's so hot, it's turning into steam.
When it reaches 212 Fahrenheit.
Okay, water turns to steam when it boils. Water boils when it reaches a temperature of 212 degrees Fahrenheit. Say 212 degrees Fahrenheit.
212 degrees Fahrenheit.
Now remember, today is going to be about 76 degrees Fahrenheit. Do you think that 212 degrees Fahrenheit is going to be hotter or colder than today? It's going to be hot. It's not even going to be hot. It's going to be super duper hot. Okay? It's going to be so hot that that water changes from a liquid to a gas. Okay? So raise your hand if you can tell me what causes water to turn to ice. What do we have to have for water to turn to ice? Colton? If we have water, Dominic, how do we change it into ice?
Put it in the fridge and make it freeze.
You make it very cold. And we said it has to be 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Good. How do we turn water into steam
I boil.
or the gas? Weston?
Boiling.
You boil it. You have to add what? What is boiling doing? It doesn't just boil. You have to do something to make it boil.
Hot. Hot.
You have to add heat, okay? And it boils at 212 degrees Fahrenheit. Good job. Let's turn over to page 136 if you've got your book. If you don't, I'm just going to show you the picture. And it looks like we've got some dishes, right? Sitting in the strainer. See that? Okay. Water at any temperature can change into what's called water vapor. Water vapor is a type of gas. This change is called evaporation.
Follow along in your books. She's on
Okay.
page 136.
Evaporation is what happens when you have rainwater and the sun heats it up and it starts evaporating and it changes into steam and turns into that cloud. That's called evaporation. Some people use a drying rack after washing their dishes. The dishes dry after the water evaporates. It turns into a gas. Okay? Water vapor turns into a gas. That's how your dishes get dried. Okay? Water vapor changes back into a liquid. It changes back into liquid water when it cools in the air. So as it heats up, it turns into that water vapor through evaporation. And when it starts to cool down, that water vapor cools down, it makes what we call condensation, or that water vapor turns right back into water. Okay? You can see condensation after a hot shower. Think of your shower. When you take a shower at night, it's hot, right? Okay? The water vapor touches the shower door and it turns back into liquid. So when you turn that hot shower on, the water's so hot that it starts to steam, right? You see the steam in your shower? Well then, as the steam cools down, it has what's called condensation, and it changes back into water as liquids on your shower door or your shower curtain or even on your mirror. Have you ever seen the condensation on your mirror in the bathroom? Yes, sir.
What does C mean?
Celsius. It's a type of temperature, like Fahrenheit and Celsius. Okay.
What does that mean?
It's the name of temperature. It's how we measure the temperature of the air. Okay? All right, good job. Let's turn over to page 138. And on page 138, does anyone know what that's a picture of?
Melted cheese.
It's melted cheese. Does anyone know what we call melted cheese when we dip bread into it? I bet you don't know. It starts with an F. What? Nope. Miss Harris, do you know what it's called?
Yes.
What is it?
Fondue.
Fondue. Okay? When you take melted cheese or sometimes melted chocolate and fruit and you dip something in it like bread or that fruit and you eat it, it's called fondue. So that's a picture of fondue. Okay? And there's even a restaurant in Raleigh called the Melting Pot, and they serve all different kinds of fondue. So it's pretty cool. But what I want you to notice on page 138 is that other matter can change forms too. Think of a block of cheese, okay? Think of a block of cheese. Is a block of cheese a solid, liquid, or gas?
A solid.
It's a solid, okay? It's solid. But what happens to that cheese when you add heat to it?
Melt.
It starts to melt. And that's what we see in the picture. We see melted cheese. The cheese is a solid and it melts when it gets hot. It changes to a liquid. Because if you think about melting cheese, does it hold its shape or does it take the shape of the container?
It takes the shape of the container.
That's right. Does it flow like syrup or water if you pour it? Yes, it is a liquid. Okay, bread dipped in melted cheese is a tasty treat. In fact, Miss Duper went for Mexican last night, and I took tortilla chips and dipped them in melted cheese, and it was delicious. What a tasty treat. Okay, let's look on page 139. What's in the picture on page 139? Let me show my friends. Ice pops, freeze pops, juice pops, whatever you want to call them.
Soda pops.
Okay, they're not soda pops. They're what the book says is they're actually juice pops. Juice is a type of matter. What state of matter is juice? What is it, Destiny? Yes, juice is liquid. Okay, and what happens to a liquid when it gets cold? When we get it to that 32 degrees Fahrenheit, it freezes. So that juice is gonna freeze and it's gonna get really, really cold and it changes to a solid, which is what we eat like a freeze pop, right? But what happens when you eat the freeze pop? When it's in your mouth, what happens to the freeze pop? It melts. Why does it melt? Yes, your mouth is very hot and it makes that solid turn to a liquid. How do you think we could turn that juice into a gas? Emma?
You can make it really hot.
You could make it 212 degrees Fahrenheit. You could boil it and that juice would probably turn to a gas. Dominic?
Or if your sidewalk was hot and you just dumped it, it would disappear.
Yes, good. Okay. It would change to steam or gas. Good job. Turn over to page 140, and there's a picture of a little boy and his dad, and they look like they're on a what? On a hike out in the what? In the mountains. They're on a mountaintop. Okay, see that? Dad and a little boy. And it says we use solids, liquids, and gases every single day. Every day we use solids, liquids, and gases. They're an important part of our lives and our planet. Okay? Let's see. I know that Ms. Turnage wanted to come up here. And we wanted to maybe compare the three types of matter because I realized that as a class, we forgot to finish our tree map. What state of matter did we forget to fill in? The gases.
And they still have one more day to finish it.
You have one more day to finish your assignment. One more day.
If
All right,
you
Ms.
don't finish
Turnage.
it today, I'm gonna be so sad tomorrow. Do you hear me, Mom? Y'all? Yeah. Okay, and tomorrow we're gonna try and have an experiment to go with gases. So stay tuned. It's going to be kind of explosive.
What?
Yeah.